Welcome back to your morning on Spectrum News 1. As LA enters what could be the fifth day of protests, Mayor Karen Bass is calling for peace in the city and calling on the federal government to end the ICE raids. And Mayor Bass joins us now with more on the civil unrest and the growing tensions here in Los Angeles. Good morning to you, Mayor. I know you've had a busy few days. I appreciate you taking some time out with us this morning.
Absolutely. Good morning to you.
All right, let's start here for Mayor. You've obviously been meeting with the governor. We've seen that. Just kind of give me what those discussions have been like. And also, have you had a chance to speak with President Trump since the raids began on Friday?
No, I haven't had a chance to speak to him. I'm going to put out a request today to have that conversation. And let me just say that talking to the governor, the focus was about him having the power back that was seized by the federal government. And so a letter that he sent requesting that the president rescind the order for troops. I know one thing that I want to see happen is the raids to stop. So I would like the president to withdraw the ICE agents. You know, if you think about last Thursday, everything was fine in the city. There was nothing going on. Nothing was happening in LA that should have called for ICE raids to take place or the National Guard to come in. The disturbances that have happened can absolutely be managed by our local law enforcement, but this really feels like it is an intentional intrusion into our city to create chaos. And I'm very saddened by that and angry.
You mentioned that. I mean, there's a lot of folks are questioning the impetus, the genesis of this. Where did this all begin and why all of a sudden now? I want to ask you this, Mayor. President Donald Trump has authorized, as you just mentioned there, the deployment of a couple thousand additional National Guard members and even 700 Marines. And it comes despite your opposition, as you just mentioned, as well as Governor Gavin Newsom's. He's been calling for them to rescind. You said the Trump administration and its ICE raids are to blame for this and maybe inciting the tension here. What would you say to the National Guard's deployment? Would you say it's the sole reason that we've seen the escalation go from maybe peaceful in the beginning to what we've seen over the last couple of days?
No, I mean, I really think what's behind it is the raids. The fact that people don't know when, where, how, who is going to be raided. And then there are people who are here legally, arriving for their appointments, their annual appointment at immigration offices, sometimes bringing their families with them, and they're detained and they are here legally. So when that word gets out, you know, people are going to start missing their appointments, and then they're going to fall out of status and become be here illegally. So all of this kind of chaos and uncertainty and fear, all of that contributes to this. Now, add on top of it, bringing in federal troops, it makes people angry. If you can look right now at the pictures that you were showing, this is the federal building, okay? It is one building downtown. What are you gonna do with 2,000 troops in one building that is not under mortar fire? What are you gonna do with them? And now you're gonna bring in on soldiers from the Marines, who essentially are gonna be positioned against our own citizens. You know, this is just, that's why I wonder whether it's an experiment. Let's see if we can deal with Los Angeles. If we can seize power from the state of California, seize power from the city of Los Angeles, maybe this is a show we should put on the road and go to other cities.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. I saw that you'd recently mentioned that this kind of being a testing ground for maybe other cities, as you just mentioned there. But so I'll switch gears on you. Mayor, let me ask you about this. Trump's border czar, Tom Homan, threatened your arrest and Governor Newsom's arrest for immigration enforcement. And Newsom responded by saying, quote, "Arrest me." What's your response to those threats?
Well, I mean, I think it's beneath his position as border czar. It's unfortunate. Basically, he's saying if the governor or I interfered with federal officials, why on earth would we do that? But I do think it's just emblematic of the combative nature of the administration. I had probably spoken to Mr. Holman an hour before that interview, and it was like we were having a normal, peaceful conversation. And from that to, yeah, I'll arrest her, you know, it's bravado that is just so unnecessary and unfortunate right now with what's happening in our city.
You know, this morning, President Trump posted on Truth Social, and he was saying in part, if I didn't send in the troops to Los Angeles the last 3 nights, that once beautiful and great city would be burning to the ground right now, much like 25,000 houses burned to the ground in LA. And when you hear something like that, obviously you read it right there on your screen. How do you respond to what the president said?
Well, first of all, I just said a minute ago, the only thing the National Guard troops are doing is guarding one building, okay? And it's 100 National Guard members. When he's talking about the city would be, burning to the ground, what is happening is horrible, but it is happening to a few streets in downtown Los Angeles. This is not citywide civil unrest a la 1992. It's not at all. It's terrible, and I've been very clear about that. So it's just lies. I'm not going to say untruths or what. It is a lie. The other thing that he did was he said that the National Guard kept the peace last Saturday night. Now, last Saturday night was a situation where there were a hundred people who were vandalizing property and committing crime. 100 people. He said that the National Guard hadn't even been deployed. And he said the National Guard is what kept the peace last Saturday. So I don't think that this is shocking behavior for this president, but there is no semblance of that statement that is true.
You know, I've heard you say multiple times, and even Chief McDonald talk about the fact that anytime we have something, whether it be the summer of George Floyd, what we have currently happening right now, there's always going to be folks who come out and they practice their First Amendment right. They're protesting peacefully. Then you get agitators as well. What would you say to those that kind of get mixed in and then maybe interrupt what has been happening peacefully? What would you say to the folks who are coming out maybe looking to start some things?
Well, what angers me, especially if you see the vandalism in downtown LA, it is just absolutely heartbreaking. But what I would say is that don't ever tell anybody that you're fighting on behalf of immigrants because you are not. Everything that you are doing in committing crimes, vandalizing properties, you are inviting the Marines in. So don't say that you want the military out of Los Angeles. You do not. You are inviting them in through your vandalism.
I had someone on, Mayor, I believe it was yesterday or a couple of days ago, and he was with the ACLU. And one of the things he said that I thought was interesting, he said, LA knows how to protest. And he just kind of went through the history of protests here in this city. And now we're seeing, of course, where so many folks, and this is a town of different demographics, different ethnicities, whether it be immigrants, whether it be folks who've been here for generations upon generations, they're all coming together. What would you say to your constituents who are out there, maybe, as you mentioned earlier, afraid, or maybe those who are feeling empowered and want to protest? Is there a lasting message you would have for them?
Well, what I want to say is that you are absolutely welcome and invited to exercise an American tradition, which is your First Amendment right. But there is no case, no example of where violence is a part of your First Amendment right. So I think it's critically important to show support for immigrants, but we should not allow any activity to devolve into violence. And if it does, then you will be subject to arrest and prosecution under the full extent of the law. And we're not going to play around. And you shouldn't assume that if you didn't get arrested that night, that you're not going to get arrested a week later. Investigations take place, videotape is reviewed, and you have a strong possibility of being arrested.
We hope people are definitely listening to that message. Quickly here as well, Mayor, LAUSD Superintendent Alberto Caballo said that yesterday the graduation events will be patrolled by LA School Police. What conversations have you had with the superintendent about the situation? What are the plans moving forward? I mean, it's one of those things where we've had schools we've had some possible raids there. We have a lot of folks concerned, parents are concerned. How do I handle this? And then today being the last day of school, what can we expect there?
Well, I have spoken to the superintendent. We have a strong collaborative relationship. And he told me that, they are not going to allow ICE on their campus. They're going to protect the students. And they're also going to have a robust summer program. And that summer program, I think, is going to be very important because if you can imagine the amount of uncertainty and fear that's going to be going on now, because even if it lasts 30 days and they don't come back, there will always be the fear of when will they be back, that it's wonderful that in addition to enhancing their education, they have an opportunity to be with their peers in constructive activities.
You know, President Trump has said that this could possibly go on, be prepared for 30 days of ICE raids. How are you preparing your team, folks around here, officials, if that is the case and this goes on for another 30 days?
Well, one is making sure that whatever happens is peaceful, monitoring it and making sure we know when it's going to happen, because you know that ICE does not notify the city or the state that they're coming in, or the police department. So it's all a surprise, and then we don't know what's going to happen around our city. It's very very troubling.
All right. And Mayor, again, if there's any last thing you wanted to say, obviously we have folks who are watching, folks who are leaning on your, your words. Any last thing you want to say to Angelinos who are watching right now?
Well, Angelinos, please stay safe. Please do not allow yourselves to become involved in any level of violence. If you want to support immigrants, you can show that. You can demonstrate that in a variety of different ways. Violence is never the way. Thank
All
you.
right. Mayor Karen Bass, thank you so much for your time. Obviously, again, a busy time for you. We appreciate it very much. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Let Spectrum News be your resource for balanced, in-depth political coverage. And click the subscribe button here. You can also download our app and watch us on TV to learn more about the candidates, where they stand on the issues, and more. We'll see you then.